England Take. I'm your host, AJ Kierstead. NewEnglandTake.com. Check out the Substack we've got over there where you can get the shows. Feel like throwing me a few bucks. Subscribe. You won't get anything for it just yet. We'll figure that out eventually, but definitely go and check that out. You get every episode in your inbox, as well as YouTube and all major podcast platforms. Big thank you to WKXL for picking up the show Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. And you're going to hear my voice a little more over there over the weekends. I'm going to be doing a New England news roundup that will air top of the hour Saturdays and Sundays, so keep an eye out for that. I'll also be posting those articles on my Substack as well as at nhtalkradio.com. So if you want some of the top stories happening in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, check that out. And as always, big thank you to thegranitegrok.com for picking up the show Saturday nights on their feed. Excited to be joined today by someone who set up a previous interview I had on the show, which we'll talk about. His name is Quinn Allred. He's the executive director of Let Us Lead, a current college student. Excited to talk about what he's got going on with this organization. Welcome to the show.
Hey, AJ, thank you for having me.
So, first of all, you're a college student. Where are you going to college? What are you studying?
I go to Dartmouth College, and that's what's brought me up to New Hampshire and has gotten me connected to the area, which I really appreciated. I'm a government major, and I focus on public policy. It's always been a passion of mine, and I believe it's a massive bridge between what you've lived through and the better tomorrow that you want to have, and then that middle piece on how to do it.
That's great. Yeah. So give the elevator pitch. What is Let Us Lead? And then we'll dive further into the ethos behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Let Us Lead, first and foremost, is an organization founded by young people for young people to close the gap in power between youth and politics. We want to get young people experiences much earlier than they otherwise have the opportunity to. We have seen how that spirals out in both major political parties and ends up with 80-year-old presidents and massive dissatisfaction rates across the board. What's currently happening is not working, and it's time to pass the torch.
Often young people are used and abused when it comes to campaigns, whether it's, so I when I was a student journalist, for example, I was on the ground covering the New Hampshire primary. I saw some of the atrocious conditions that some of these call centers are in, whether it's doing that, whether it's going out, knocking doors, random weekends in the middle of the winter, because, hey, guess what? It's New Hampshire and it's cold all the time. But that happens nationwide. This is not something that's unique to New Hampshire. What are you hoping to address when it comes to the nature of how campaigns work and how young people are working within them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive conversation that every campaign has on an individual level, but they learn from their predecessors. So when we get to make change in one place, one time, we get to see that ripple effect. And we get to apply this on a very regular basis as an organization, which is an awesome check-in for this live case study model. But what you see on college campuses, and there's a photo of me, out in the snow during the midterms that went up on Fox News, that went up on CNN, because I look freezing, and I'm from North Carolina, so I absolutely was freezing. And I'm there, and I was there for 4 hours. Got there when it was dark. It's New Hampshire, so it was still dark when I left. And 3 months before the campaign got going, it's as is the practice for a ton of other young people across the country. That's when you get tapped. And it's for you to mobilize your peers. It's for you to get on the calls. It's for you to knock the doors. But that's all that it is. It's using you for your labor as a young person, connect to other young people, which is a group that has been and is today systematically excluded from power, from politics, and from those actual conversations. And so it's a way to get you caught up in the hype, to then get you out there, to then hope that your person is elected. And then it's that after piece that is really the problem. Because backing up, if you want to learn how to have these hard conversations, if you want to learn how to make a difference, you have to be on the doors. You have to be on those calls. That is not the part that is the problem. That's where you have to start. That can't be where we finish. We have to, once the election is over, and then hopefully through the campaign work, but that's, I guess, another conversation. We'll talk our theory of change. There has to be the recognition on the back end. There has to be the accountability to actually set forth policy that benefits young people. We are going to be the ones who experience whatever the outcome is, good or bad, from these legislators, from these different governmental buildings and offices, from the people who are making these decisions. We're going to be impacted the longest. So they should be looking for our perspective when they're making decisions, not just when they're trying to get out the vote.
So what is the model you're hoping to do that's going to change that?
Absolutely. So it's sort of a unionization of power when we work with the candidate. And Let Us Lead is a 501c3. We do not do campaign work. We give young people the tools to lead in their communities their way. And I think we'll talk about the curriculum of that later. Our partner organization, When We Lead, is a good model for it. And When We Lead right now is working with two congressional campaigns. That's Ashley Bell down in North Carolina's 10th congressional district, and that's Paige Boschman, where I'm the campaign manager in my individual capacity for New Hampshire's 2nd congressional district. And what that looks like is from the jump, when we're looking for these candidates, we ask them what their vision for young people is in the world, what policies they're going to put forth, and then also on their campaign to actually get there. What good are they going to do through this process? And if they are not willing to have a young person, and I mean for real young, I'm talking under 25, I'm talking around that, who are going to be in their core four, campaign manager, chief of staff, in that room where the highest level decisions are being made, if they aren't willing to put a young person there, they do not deserve to have young support. And we start with that conversation, and then it trickles down to every different sector. Young people are constantly thrown in to be social media gurus, whether that is something that we're actually qualified to be in that moment or not, because it's just thrown upon us. And
You're
that's
under 40. You can use a phone and social media, right? You're an expert. Of course you know how to do
exactly.
that. It definitely hasn't been my career.
Well, it also should not be me at all, especially me independent of, I mean, there are young people that are great at it. I'm not one of them. And I've been like thrown into that writ large just off the jump before. And that's not good for you, and that's not good for me. But finding the different ways that young people do require a little extra training, a little extra resources. And that's not a bad thing. That is a new perspective, and that's a fantastic way to get someone involved for life so that they can learn over and over and over again. And that is the future of how this works.
So how does the fellowship itself work? That's, at least as my understanding is, that's the nature of the setup that you're aiming to have with these.
Absolutely. So Let Us Lead, which is a 501c3, registered at the end of 25. We're operating before building our curriculum. It runs two 10-week fellowships every single year. And now our proximity to campaign season has us equip young people with different tools. But for the first 4 weeks, it's almost always the same. It's how to have hard conversations with the people that you love and the people that you don't yet know. And so if you're having a conversation with someone and you are the one who asked for it and you're trying to understand what they know, you should not be talking for more than 30% of the time. And you should be asking these probing questions and make them feel comfortable enough to answer how they feel in their own words and not package it for how they think you want to hear it. And so we have different strategies to do that, but you are going to be the most effective communicator to the 10 people closest to you. There is no one in the world that can talk to those people better than you. And so starting in your own backyard is incredibly important to what we do. And I said this earlier, but we want to train young people to lead their way in their community. And we will never impose upon them something that comes from the top nationally. We're very decentralized. We operate in 12 states now and across 19 campuses. And what you are deciding to talk to people about is completely dependent on what you are experiencing and the people in your lives are experiencing. And so we start you from the beginning and we level set with that. And you're having these conversations and you're aggregating the people of your community's voice and you're writing that down and you're learning how to talk to people. And that's the first step. And then the second is the people that you don't know. And we give you ways to go reach out to people and to make it as non-political or non-biased as possible, but ask them first, what is affecting you? Okay, where do you think that is caused? Could it be this or this or this? Why do you think that? And just be as genuine as you can in that process before we ever get to thinking about the research on a policy topic that our fellows then produce as like kind of a midway check-in. And before they decide what that's going to be, it's not going to be top down. They're going to hear what's affecting the people in their community. They're going to democratically choose the biggest issue facing them. And then we pair them with people who are experts in that policy area, who are experts in their type of community, whether that's very rural, very urban, somewhere in between. And we connect them to those resources that they would otherwise not have. And we have a blueprint. So they don't have to recreate the wheel every time, but they can plug in what's worked in other communities and is working with other people who are trying to lead like them across the country to make this event where they then invite all of those people again and then have this conversation. You were worried about this and this. You were worried about healthcare in your community and how, cuts to Medicaid and Medicare are going to affect the two pillars, the two features of disparities that are going to end someone up in an unhealthy situation. I went out and I talked to people and I brought these resources, information together, and I'm going to bring it back to you so that you didn't have to do the labor to do that. And so that's the first part of the model. And then it builds towards the end. There's a youth voter mobilization model where we're registering young people to vote, and they're talking to those right around them on their campus. And then it all culminates in this big event at the end, which we really want to have cross collaboration with. And so I think one probably example that exemplifies exactly what we're going for is last cycle, the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, the Let Us Lead chapter there partnered with Turning Point USA, the College Dems, and the College Republicans. And they had this massive group come together where you know that you're going in good faith. Everyone talked to the people in their organization, said, hey, please only come if you really want to understand why they think the way they think. And so with that going in, people are able to say, because of this experience I've had, because of this knowledge that I have, that is then informed this method that I believe in to make sure that our generation is safe. And, starting from there can then build to a million different outcomes where you're focusing on what you do agree on and then actually getting there and having that conversation face to face. So there's a long-winded answer, but it's a 10-week fellowship. First 4 weeks, we give you the tools. Last 6 weeks, you put it into an experiential learning model. And so you actually put into practice what you supposedly preach.
That's fantastic, and I really want to harp on what you just said about bringing the various organizations like the College Dems, TPUSA, those various organizations together, because we've got this. I spoke a little bit about this with Dexter a couple weeks ago on the show as a contributor here, and people have forgotten that politics is about relationships. Like that's totally been destroyed. It was people like to blame Trump for that. I saw this way back at the end of the George W. presidency. This has been an ongoing issue. Obama during his campaigns did a great job during the campaign side, but in leadership, I feel like he was extremely toxic when it came down to it, which is how he ultimately had so many issues. Why the Affordable Care Act didn't end up the way he wanted to. His all sorts of different policy things like that. Then you obviously get the. I always love say what you will about Ben Shapiro. He always said it best, Trump is the coroner, not the murderer of our political climate. He saw what was going on and he capitalized on it. Because he continued, he said, screw it, I'm just going to put it out there. Those guys are evil, I don't like them, I'm not going to work with them. When it was already that way. So to have young people from the get-go look at this and consider, hey, we all got to figure this out. We're all coming at this from a policy perspective, from a personal values perspective, but we all got to kind of figure it out and play in the pool together is really important.
Yeah, I love that you focused on, where division was. It was the House versus the Senate. There's a million great quotes about how my enemy isn't the Democrat or the Republican across the aisle. It's getting it to the Senate, getting it passed. And young people need to come together in this moment. We are pawns in this at the moment where we're being pitted against each other to produce some kind of electoral outcome. The average age of a congressperson is 58 years old. Young people make up 20% of the US population, but less than 2% of elected officials. And those who are under the age of 30 were only 15% of all voters in 2024, which is well below our actual share of the population. And so we are not being heard. If we want that change to happen, we have to start with us. But going from the top and having the party say, young people, if you care, you need to just come in, and not having any of the in between is never going to work. It's going to fall on deaf ears, and it's going to piss off my generation while you do it.
And that's why I really like for Let Us Lead. It's the candidate needs to actually have buy-in that the young person is going to actually have a position that means something ultimately, because there is a big put money where your mouth is. And I'm 38. I'm in the middle here when it comes to, do I really want these young whippersnappers to do that and yelling at the street with my cane and things like that, versus, hey, we got to have the voices in the mix somewhere. It's really important. If you want to say this is a priority, you got to make it a priority.
Absolutely. And it's been something that you hear a lot and you see in targeted Instagram ads because you can get so specialized. But like you said, people are not putting their money where their mouth is. And it shows not only on the output and not only on not getting elected, but when you go into someone you were talking about on those snowy days and those cramped campaign offices where there are people making the calls, when you go in there and you see one half the room that's doing something and they're all under 25 and then the other half that is not, you have that conversation. But again, as everything else we do with Let Us Lead, it is about having that feeling and then doing something about it, but also talking to those people, which is why we try and set it up for those who do want to get involved. Because we want you if you're anxious, we want you if you're angry, we want you if you're pissed off, we want you if you're scared or sad, or if you're feeling anything at all about politics and you haven't been pushed into that apathetic category and you want to do something. You don't have to know the way to do it. We want to work with you. We want to find the way that you can be most effective in your community. We're going to give you the resources to survey them and to actually then do it. And so it's a 10-week fellowship, and we give you the tools then. But alumnihood means a lot of different things with Let Us Lead. It is actually working on that campaign with our partner organization. We've had 5 19-year-olds be campaign managers of state house races in the last cycle. We've had 20-year-olds become executive council campaign managers. I mean, now we're looking at congressional candidates where I'm the campaign manager, just turned 23. We got Michaela Pittman and Lauren Land down in North Carolina who are running the campaign there too. We got Raquel Grant who's working with me with Paige Boschman. And so there is a model. It's not just for the first person to do it. We're bringing people behind us, and we're getting way better every time. Everyone who's done like one campaign now, so much better at it the first time I did it because we have a living, breathing document. We talk to each other. We don't just push you out and say, hey, go ahead and do it, because that's what's already happening to us.
All right, that's a fantastic overview of Let Us Lead. If we're going to talk about, I want to talk about you and how you got here. But if people want to learn more about Let Us Lead or get involved, what should they do?
So letuslead.org, the new website that we've just created, will go live in, I don't know when this will go out, but any day after this goes out. You can also find us at letuslead_ on Instagram. And we have potentially a chapter in your state. We're in 12 states now. So if you look that up, there'll be information for you specifically. We're going to have, excuse me, our next fellowship cycle starts February 9th. It'll run 10 weeks. And then we'll take a breather, recalibrate, take in all of your opinions and edits, and amalgamate that and make a better product for the next group.
That's awesome. So shoot me an email when that's live, and I'll be sure to post it on the socials. So because it's important people check it out. So
I appreciate it.
let's talk about you, Quentin. Like, what led you to do something like this? This is not an easy thing. Some student started something. I'm sure they'll get it sorted out. You got it in 12 states. What was this journey for getting this started? What led you to actually pull the trigger to do something substantial?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming now. I think the spark of it was being in middle school and high school and seeing banned book lists. And I just couldn't believe people weren't getting access to information, or that we were trying to rewrite something that objectively happened. And, I didn't know what else to do except raise hell with my local school board. And then 2 other people that I was going back from soccer practice with were like, wait, I would stop by and do it with you. And like, that was the first, I guess, political act I ever did. And it was the first act I ever brought people into, and I hadn't even asked. And so it's taken different forms from there. I volunteered on campaigns in high school. I did just anything I could to learn more about how to have conversations and talk with more people. None of it was sparkly and professionalized. None of it was that out there. Anyone can do what I did, and anyone can do what I'm currently doing as well. I got to college. I was lucky to be in New Hampshire, where if you are here, you get to, make a sizable impact if you're dedicated, because it's so hyper local. And, I took a medical gap year in between high school and college, where I went through, I went through a lot, especially with my health. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, and it really, really baked in for me. If you care enough and you want to do something about it, the only thing stopping you is you. And I didn't know how. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew I needed to learn some more first. And so I took every social impact research opportunity. I did everything I could to go out into New Hampshire and Vermont and to talk with people there. And I was working with the Dartmouth Center for Social Impact, and I was doing research on youth voter attitudes. And so I was embedded in a high school, and I ended up meeting Representative Esme Cole. And, she was very young. She was, just off the back of a special election, and she just was, scared for our generation and being so, not involved, and why, and how it just seemed to climb and to grow. And so we became friends, and we had these conversations together, and we tried different things out. And like the first 2 things I tried out on like a small event scale, they didn't really work. People weren't into it. I think it was too academic and exercise. And so we went all the way the other way, and we started meeting people where they were at and being very social with it. And that's the first time it kind of clicked. And I was working in DC that summer, And Esme and I were on the phone. It was like 3 hours. I was walking around the Capitol, or I was walking around the Supreme Court, and the Capitol Police told me to get lost. And we kept having this call. And by the end of it, I apparently accidentally convinced her to run for office. She didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. We're like, okay, let's try it together. And then the next step was I texted people that I know, that I'm friends with. And I was like, we've complained about the political system that we've inherited. I think I have a chance to do something right here. Do you want to do it with me? And the people who said yes, that is the first iteration of Let Us Lead. We didn't know what we were doing. We know we wanted to make a difference, and we knew we were going to dedicate ourselves to it, and we were going to learn. And so we, through trial and error, we figured out how to run a campaign. And we wrote it all down. And when we did something better, we replaced it. We kind of started building this campaign Bible. And we got to the end of it. And it was a fully youth-led campaign. There were 8 of us. And, Esme won. And we looked at each other, and we like to think we're decent at what we did. We certainly worked hard, but we realized that any young person who cared enough could do exactly what we did if they had a little bit of help, a little bit of resources, a little bit of guidance on how to do it. And so right after that, it was about to be the 24 general. We created the beta version of this organization, and we took all that we had learned and we broke it up into a 12-week practicum. So it became 10 weeks. So we realized that works better for the school schedule, but it was 12 weeks. And we trained the incoming class of freshmen on every single thing we had done to run that campaign. But we didn't want it to just stay in theory. That was something that we've always been committed to. And so people who had worked as department heads when I was the campaign manager became the campaign manager themselves on a new state house race. We're working with Nikki Murphy. We're working with a few different candidates in New Hampshire, and Jolene Farmer was among them. And so it was a new 19-year-old, not myself, who became the campaign manager. So it was the next person who was going. And then I was just trying to help from the top. And then all of these fellows who were 17, 18 years old were then, became a comms director by week 10. And they had been dedicating themselves to it because New Hampshire is so local. Then we found a way to make it even bigger and better from there. And so we took that, we went through the general. We made a national cycle next because we wanted everyone to have an opportunity to do this. And that's when this organization really took on a new form. Weren't campaigns. We're going national. We wanted to establish ourselves. So we went nonpartisan. We want anyone who wants to make a difference in their community and wants to work with other people to do so, wants to be able to have those tough conversations. And we had a virtual national cycle. We had in-person on Dartmouth. We go through that. We learned there was so much we had to change if we weren't face to face with people, like so much we had to change. So we worked really, really intensely, like tried to rewrite like half of our curriculum, and we applied it again on this last cycle. And it really sung this time. We went from 3 states. We were in New Hampshire, North Carolina, and Tennessee on 5 campuses, Dartmouth, UTK, A&T, NCSU, and UNC Chapel Hill. And this last break, from the people who went through that and then really believed in the mission and have joined our staff now, we have 50 people working across the country on this. We're now going to have 125 fellows, 19 campuses, 12 states this next cycle, going from 3 states and 5. And that is 100% because people want to lead. This is not something that you come into and you morph into. It's you take what we're given and you want to give it to your community, and you're the person who's willing to dedicate their time to taking this into your community and then to train other people already in your community. Completely relational based. There's no other way to do it. And we're so grateful to the people who want to carry the torch and who want to take this to the people that they know and the people that they love and the lives that they want to make better. And I learn so much from all of them every day. And so I'm very blessed to be doing what I'm doing and really excited that Let Us Lead has grown in the way that it has.
That's incredible story. That's great. I forgot to ask this before, but it's important. But the funding model, does this have very much overhead, and what sort of funding are you currently receiving or hoping to receive in the future for something like this?
Yeah, great question. From the jump, I let you say there are no corporate donors. It's all small donations right now. We're in the running for a few grants at the moment. We just registered as a C3 the end of last year. So we've started applying last like 5 days to these things. We will never be beholden to any individual interest. That's something that we are dedicated to. We found a way to make it really, really lean. We're not having any frivolous trips. We're not funding any physical building. None of us are going to anything crazy. We're not doing anything like that. It is all a group of people who are outside the age range of the fellows It's a lot of, 40, 50, 60-year-old people who are scared for the next group and don't think that they are the ones who are going to be knocking on doors anymore. But they want there to still be a difference, and they want to believe in the hope of the future. And so they write a check so that we can keep funding young people to do it. Our whole model for expansion is people go through the fellowship. They liked what they learned enough that they want to then give that opportunity to the next person. And then we need funding to bridge that gap, to be on a new campus, to be in a new state, to have our website up, to have the socials, to have our software so that we can make sure that people's data is safe and everything's accountable as we expand to this level. But all small donors as of right now, I hope that we pick up some grants in the new year.
Yeah, awesome. You definitely need that 501c3 for that.
Yeah.
So we got like 4 minutes left here. So what's it like working with Representative Paige Boschman? So I had a great conversation with her about a month ago on the episode. We disagree a lot on policies and stuff, but it doesn't matter. It was a great conversation. She's really open-minded and stuff. But what's it like working with her?
I've been honored every step of the way. I've done a lot of volunteering in the state of New Hampshire. I've done a lot of political work in the state of New Hampshire. None of those experiences have been like working with Paige. She comes in, she says, "This is what I think we probably should do. I only think that because of these experiences. What do you think that we should do?" And a lot of the time I say, "Well, this is what I think, but let's bring in 5 more people in this room." She says, "Yes, call them up right now." And so every discussion we're having, we're running it by as many people as possible. And we're proud of what we're doing, but we're not prideful in the way that we do it. And, you don't always see that with candidates. So it's really nice to see that with her. She just truly wants to do the best for the people of her district. And her story speaks to me a lot about what she has seen being a nurse. I mean, both candidates that we work with are healthcare professionals, and that means a lot to me after having gone through what I have been through. But also, like, there are very few intersections where you're seeing people in their truest state, and that is when their loved ones or themselves are being afflicted with something. And that really grounds her, that grounds this campaign. We never begin or end a meeting without some form of gratitude for the fact that we get to be healthy enough to be doing this work, and that we are able to find a way to be together in this moment, which is, how we get to put in the long hours and how we get to bring in so many new young people. And that's honestly that end part there, where there are young people in every single room that decisions are being made. I'm the campaign manager. The deputy is 21 years old or 20 years old through Raquel Grant. We've got people who are running policy research, and we've got people running the comms department with Hope. And there's just so many different things there that you get to trust these people. They're going to take these experiences and do so much more with it in the future. So Paige is doing a lot of good through running, and not just when she gets there at the end, including the mutual aid work that she does. Every one of her events in person has a mutual aid component. There's a food drive, there's a clothing drive, there's daycare, there's anything there to make sure that this is a working people's campaign, which is absolutely a priority for When We Lead.
So where do you see yourself in 10 years here? You're in college, you're going through your studies. I'm assuming you're aiming to have a living at some point during this. What's your goal?
One might hope, with definitely something that my generation is afflicted with. You want to know, my mom wants to know, my professors want to know. But I know that I'm returning to North Carolina, and I'm really, really excited to do that. I've loved the time I've gotten to spend in New Hampshire and in the Upper Valley. I want to make some good change for my community. I know that I'm going to be in Wake County, where I grew up. I know that I'm never going to stop trying to organize people to come together. I know that I'm never going to stop getting in front of people and trying to shake some sense into them. And I'm going to work with Let Us Lead. We just decided as of 2 days ago that there are going to be 2 of us who are going to dedicate fuller amounts of our time to it. Likely after that, it is law school, but I'm focusing on Let Us Lead now, focusing on putting us in the best position as possible and learning from as many people to do so. And that'll be the next year. 10 from now, I hope that we don't have this problem. I hope you and I are, sipping something somewhere, and there is, no more youth gap problem. But until that moment, I will keep fighting. So let us lead.
Fantastic. Quinn Allred, thanks so much for joining. Please be sure to check out Let Us Lead. I'll put links in the episode description. This has been the New England Take. I'm your host, AJ Kirsten. NewEnglandTake.com. Subscribe. Thanks to WKXL for picking up the show. Next up over there is Facing the Future, brought to you by the Concord Coalition. And as always, Granted Grock for picking up the show every Saturday night. Check out the shorts on our YouTube channel. Been posting there fairly regularly with all sorts of random hot takes. And we'll talk to you soon.